There we go. All right. We're starting recording now. So I'm just giving the bio for Amy. In her free time, Amy enjoys spending time with her husband, Jason, and her 2 children, and is active in her community. So here we have Amy Geer. She's going to have like a Word document that she's going to share. So we'll wait for her to get up there. And then again, any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask.
All right. Can everybody hear? Can you still hear me okay?
We're good.
Yep. Yes. Okay. Let me move you guys out of the way of my Word document. Okay. I just did up a quick update. I didn't know what everybody was interested in. So this is going to cover maybe like 5 or 6 different topics, just kind of closing the end of the year here. For anybody who's not aware, the official end of tax season for corps and partnerships and individuals is Friday. Woohoo! So we're a little busy right now with a couple stragglers, but I'm happy to put this together. And actually, it's a really good update for some things that are going on right now. So big picture, there's still a lot outstanding going into next year as far as rates and things. There was a lot built into these packages that they're trying to pass. So right now, I'm not going to touch too much on anything that's in Congress ready to be passed, things like that, because I usually don't comment on anything. So it always changes, as you guys know. We're kind of just waiting to see if something happens with the capital gains tax, because I feel like personally that's just something that's going to be on a chopping block right away. So we'll just kind of wait and see what happens with that. So can everybody see my Word document that I have here? Can you see it, April? Is it up on the screen?
Yep, it's up.
Okay. Okay. So just want to cover some things that are new from the IRS. So they do have, for anybody who is unaware or you haven't utilized it previously, a lot of people have heard of VITA, which is like income tax preparation for low income individuals. So every year, a bunch of people apply to have their VITA programs and their TCE programs funded so that they can provide these services. And a lot of these are done through like senior centers, like your local senior center. We'll have them and anyone can come in and sit down. They're usually ran by, when I was in school, they were ran by like our local college professors, and we volunteered at them to get community service hours, but they are funded by the IRS. So I wanted to mention it today because there's another piece of this that's tax counseling for the elderly. That's the TCE part. So there's actual tax assistance and then there's tax counseling. So I don't think it like puts you guys out of a job or anything, but if you ever did have somebody approach you, and we have it we have regularly people just like call out of the blue, or we'll have an attorney approach us and say, hey, we have this client. They really don't have a lot going on. They actually don't have a lot of income, but we're just trying to help them out, get them through. This would be a good program to refer them to. And I'm sure you can Google it or go straight to irs.gov and put in TC and it'll give you like the local place, but they're typically not like open year round. They would be around tax time during tax season. So January 1st to April 15th, and then they usually shut them down. But it is free. So if you're approached by anybody or you know of anyone who can utilize those services, they are still doing that this year. I'm not aware of any Zoom platforms yet that are available. I know there's still probably quite a few elderly people who don't like want to go into a big gymnasium to get their taxes done and things like that. But I feel like I had read something that could come out soon. So with that, we have had a lot. So my next section here is about tax return catch up, because I didn't have a better term for it. In the last year, through this past tax season, and just getting into it, when they started to announce how the stimulus or the economic impact payments were going to work, we had so many people want to get caught up with their tax returns. It was the best laid plan for the IRS to have taxpayers get caught up with their tax returns. Very smart on their part. So we've had a lot of people approach us to get caught up with 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, so that they can get their economic impact payments, because that was actually, I'm sure you guys are aware, that was actually a credit that was received on your 2020 tax return. And then subsequently, once you file 2020, you get that third $1,400 payment on the back end. And it sounds like there could be another one in the works. In April, I can't see, now that I'm sharing, I can't see if there's questions. So if you see any, maybe just stop
We
me.
don't have any yet, but definitely.
Okay. But some people can just pipe in too. It seems like it's a fine group for that. So regarding tax return catch up, I wanted to talk about if you come into a situation and you have somebody who hasn't maybe had to file and they're not getting their stimulus payment for whatever reason. If you were on Social Security, you should have been getting your stimulus payments. Or if you were low income and you were getting some other form of assistance, the payments still made their way to. But we have had quite a few people who just like were under the radar. They had income through maybe some cash methods and decided they were going to get on a straight and narrow and get caught up. So we can do that. You guys can assist in that situation. We would recommend that they go online. Now everybody can go to irs.gov and set up their account. This is nice because, well, one, it wasn't really that robust previously. It was just very archaic looking, but it's super user friendly now. You can go online. It'll tell you, it will give you information on wages, and you can pull a transcript, because usually what happens in that case, the first thing we do is get a power of attorney, because we're probably going to need it somewhere along the way. But we try to go pull their IRS transcripts. And we used to do it ourselves, or have you guys do it, because like we're typically the only people that can do it. But now this online account is really much more robust. So they can go pull their account transcripts. So we would have them go pull their transcripts for whatever years are available, so we can actually see what was reported on their behalf, because they're not going to have W-2s and 1099s, and they're not going to have like their interest income earned, those kind of things. If they're not filing, they typically aren't going to be super well organized anyways. So the first thing we do is we ask them to pull a transcript. We've had a lot of that happening, like I said, in the last year, and it's been good. I'm happy to like help people get caught up. And it offers a lot of planning on our side, and it offers planning once they have their ducks in a row with you guys. So I think it's been really good. So if you are approached in a meeting also by somebody who has not received their economic impact payments, they are available to go back and request them. That is not so much of an easy process, but I'm guessing, I would think as like a trusted advisor, somewhere along the way, you guys could definitely be asked, how do I get my stimulus payments? There is a way to go out, and you have to fill out a form basically saying you didn't get them. If you go out to this irs.gov /account, it will tell you that you have received them or not. So if you can get your client signed up to their irs.gov account, it'll say, yes, you received $1,200 on this date, $600 on this date. But we've had quite a few people where a debit card came in the mail and they had a wrong address, or the debit card came and got thrown away because they had no idea what it was. If you have an elderly individual, they could just assume it's like one of those credit cards that comes in the mail that's fake. So the IRS you fill out this form, the IRS has to verify that they did not actually utilize the payment, or they did not actually get a check and it hasn't been cashed, because some came in check form. So there's direct deposit, check, and debit card. And if the IRS can verify that they did not cash the check, spend the money, they will issue another one. So that's quite a process. If they did already get it and they say they didn't. All right, so TCE, tax return catch up. So if you have anybody who needs to get caught up, it's totally possible. We are recommending that people do it even if they didn't have to file previously to get those stimulus payments. And they do come fairly quickly too. And even the 1400 has been coming fairly quickly after the fact. We've had people who use this as an opportunity where they owed for a couple years and then they were getting refunds for a few years. So they mailed in their refund ones first, so it would offset the ones that they owed. And then they got their stimulus payments. So everybody was happy. All right. The next thing on my list is an update on the employee retention credit. I think if you haven't in your own line of day-to-day work heard about the employee retention credit or utilize the employee retention credit, it's a very hot item right now. It's actually been around since the beginning of the pandemic when the first plans were rolled out, but it wasn't really well utilized originally because you can't double dip on PPP funds and employee retention credit. So now that most people have used up their PPP funds, there is this employee retention credit available. And I'm mentioning it because you can get this credit even if your business is in a trust. So as long as there's a business purpose, you can still utilize the employee retention credit if you have employees and you're paying payroll. It is not available. We did have somebody ask if they could utilize it for their nanny. The nanny was paid out of the trust for the children, and the trust itself and having that nanny did not have a business purpose. So in that case, we could not do the ERC. But I'm sure an argument somewhere along the way can be made for having the nanny for a business purpose. But in this case, it was going to be a hard argument to make, so we weren't even going to go there. But if you have a trust or an estate who has an employee involved in any way, shape, or form, you should visit whether this employee retention credit is available to them. What it is they take a look at income compared for whatever the business purpose is within that. So right now, for just a general business, if you have income in 2021 and 2020 that is reduced in comparison to 2019. So if your income is less than 2019, there's different factors. You could be eligible for the employee retention credit, and it's very lucrative. It's 50% of the wages paid. So we have some people getting, really small, getting a couple $1,000s. We've had some people get $350,000, depending on the size of their organization. But the type doesn't matter, just has to be for a business purpose. And there is, for 2020, you have to have a 50% reduction, and 2021 is a 20% reduction. And it's actually based off of quarter over quarter. So it's not like all of 2020 compared to all of 2019. So you have multiple opportunities to get this credit. So you could have first quarter, second quarter, not applicable, and then third quarter, fourth quarter, applicable. So it's definitely something to look into. I mention it because just in the estate trust realm, I think it gets forgotten about possibly. But it's there for any business to utilize as well. All right, then I didn't know, I just happened to come across this, and then in April, you can kind of chime in, or if anybody knows anything more about this. It doesn't apply to me, so I wasn't going to mention it, but I did see this under their news that starting October 28th, that the new $67 user fee that is going to apply to estate tax closing letters. The IRS reminds executors of the free transcript option. So under federal regulations, the IRS has determined that issuing closing letters is a service that is a special benefit. So they can charge a fee for that. Now here, where they mention that they can obtain from the IRS free of charge an account transcript, if that would take care of the same purpose for you, that link up above, and I can send this to April, where you go get your account, that's that more robust area now where you can go set up an account and get a transcript from online. It used to be a whole bunch of different steps to go get your account transcript. If you ever had to pull one before, it's not as time consuming as it used to be. I would still recommend a power of attorney if you're doing it and you're not actually the person who should be. You guys know that situation. But it is much easier than it used to be to go get an account transcript, and it seems to work a lot better. I will say, make sure you have the correct address from whatever their latest filing, like whatever the most recent filing with the IRS was, because they are using their system matching is very finicky. It has to be perfect. So you can't have an extra space. You can't have like an accidental letter in there. Like it has to be exact to match up, or it's just going to say, yeah, you can't set up an account. Any questions on any of that so far? Good. All right. Next on my list was just to talk about Michigan FEMA disasters. This is something else that was kind of new for us this year. The idea isn't new. There's always been, you could always take a disaster loss or casualty loss on your tax return. But this past year, 2020, and I'm guessing there's also going to still be some in 2022, we had some major flooding disasters in the area. And like up towards Midland, they had the Wixom Lake situation. And so we had a lot more casualty loss claims this year. And so far, I think all of the casualty losses that we have filed were quite large, and nobody has gotten their refund. So as far as I can tell, they're taking a closer look at these disaster losses for whatever reason. I don't anticipate any issues. Everything's really slow right now at the IRS. I don't know if anybody has had to deal with them lately. That's another line on my bottom there is contacting the IRS, but they seem wholly unavailable most days. So if you have anyone who has had an issue with a FEMA disaster, and this is just as simple as there was flooding and FEMA declared that the area in total was a disaster zone, and they could have just had $10,000 of basement damage or something like that. And if they didn't get it replaced by insurance, that is a deduction that we can take on their tax return. So I just mentioned these things as they're new things. Maybe people wouldn't have mentioned them previously. That just if somebody brings it up to you guys in conversation, that you can just mention like, hey, make sure you're mentioning that to your tax preparer, or let me get some information to like help you get some information together for you. All right. I'm actually going to skip down to my contacting the IRS because the accounting part is a whole separate thing. For us, we have, like you and I, attorneys and CPAs, we have the practitioner line at the IRS. I don't know if anyone uses this regularly. I try to use it at least once a week, but right now, nobody is available at the practitioner line. Every day is due to extremely high call volume. We don't have anybody available to take your call. That's been about 3 weeks now. I was able to get through in prior weeks. If I caught it like right away don't ever call Monday morning, but if I would call Tuesday morning right away, like I would get somebody. And they have a nice callback feature now where you can put your phone number in and they'll call you back, and it works out really well. I've actually had more success calling the general 1040 line. And we could Google it. It's a really simple number. It's like 1-800-IRS-1040 or something like that. So where I would normally try to assist my clients and say, hey, just sign this POA, I'll call and we'll get it taken care of. Now I've kind of switched gears and said, hey, if you have the time to sit and wait, because the 1040 line is sit, wait on the phone. I'm guessing like the 1065, the partnership line and the corporate line is very similar for just the regular people to call. But I'm actually having people have more success calling themselves and talking with the IRS than I am trying to get a hold of anyone on the practitioner line. So if you guys have anybody with issues, I would suggest if they're comfortable with it, that they try to call the IRS first. We also are recommending that people go make appointments with the IRS, because we just have when we write letters to like abate penalties and things like that, If somebody had like filed their tax return late or something, the letters aren't getting addressed. They're very far behind right now. I was going to bring up, I don't know if it'll let me do it on here. If you ever have a question about kind of how things are going at the IRS, they do keep this website updated. So right now mission critical functions continue. So I don't know exactly how they deem what's mission critical. They keep this updated though. So right now they have service delays on their live phone support, which I have experienced. Processing tax returns filed on paper. So all those people who I just talked about who are like playing catch up, they have to be paper filed, because the only way you can e-file is if you have your prior year PIN number or your prior year adjusted gross income. So without that, they all get filed on paper. So what we do is we catch up, we say, here's 5 years of tax returns, mail these in one by one, don't mail them all together in the same envelope. You're just going to confuse somebody. But anything on paper is like basically not being addressed. So whereas that used to be a really good method to communicate in the past, and I think it helped like lay out our argument or whatever our reasoning was for having penalties and interest abated. They're just sitting on desks right now. So their live phone support is not available mostly. Processing tax returns filed on paper, answering mail from taxpayers, and reviewing tax returns. So the people who do have to have their casualty losses reviewed, or if you have a client who has a really big swing in their like income from year to year, and it puts their tax return into review, it flags it, it's going to be a while. We're getting letters that originally used to say 30 days to review. Now they say 60 days to review. I've just gotten one that says there's going to be 90 days for review. So I'm sure we're going to eventually run into issues where they are going to bump into their own rules for how quickly they have to review something. They're either going to have to just like give everyone their abated penalties and give them their refunds, or I would guess they're going to have to pass another rule, however that works in IRS land, where they're allowed to take these out farther than they're supposed to. Because right now they do have a deadline where they have to wrap them up by. We are also recommending, they do have some IRS offices where the people are back in the office and you can make an appointment. If somebody has a really time sensitive issue, we're just going to send them straight to the IRS office and see if they can get an appointment and get it taken care of. Like I said, I did have somebody get through on a 1040 line yesterday. It was about an hour to an hour and a half wait to get through, but they were successful, and I wouldn't have been able to do that on their behalf. So anytime if you have someone with an issue and they can come out here, you can recommend they come out here, you could look it up for them. Like they file a tax return or they sent them a check. Like, when can I expect it to be cashed? Those kinds of things. They do a pretty good job of keeping this updated, but everything is still taking a long time. I mean, checks would be cashed within 60 days. I mean, that used to be like within a week or two. Because it was all computer. I don't even think there's people to run the computers at the IRS right now. So we're having a lot of frustration in the land of the Internal Revenue Service. But we try all methods. We try to fax, we try to phone, we try to mail, and it's just like whichever ones gets picked up first. Hopefully we can get the issue resolved. All right. And last but not least,
one question.
Go ahead.
All
right.
How do you make appointments at the IRS office? Is the East Lansing office open for appointments?
I don't believe the Lansing offices are open for appointments. The only one locally that I'm aware of is Flint that's open right now. So not too far of a drive, but.
And can you make those appointments on the website, or do you have to call to make them?
No, you have to call to make an appointment.
Okay, does that answer the question? And does anyone else have any questions on that subject? Okay, I think we're good.
All right.
Oh,
So
call home.
go ahead.
So call home would just be the IRS hotline number, right?
Yeah,
Or
the actual local office. So if you
Okay.
were going to, like, I don't know the number, but if I would just Google like your local office, like
so the
Flint
Flint office.
IRS, yep,
Okay.
or like Saginaw IRS office, or and you can call. And I would venture to guess that some days they're not going to be open still.
Okay.
I know they supposedly in this package that they're trying to pass right now, there is additional funding for the IRS that is supposedly like to hire more people, but I just don't think there are people to hire. So I don't know if it's going to help or not. We'll see. But they are definitely understaffed right now. I don't know about underfunded.
Okay.
But yeah, you would actually call like the local office, like the 517 number, the 810 number, not any 1-800 number. All right. So last but not least, I don't want to take up too much of your time today talking about taxes and IRS and all that. I just wanted to touch real quick on accounting for estates and trust. I'm sure everyone on here is familiar with accounting for estates and trusts on a basic level. For me, I'm used to getting from attorneys an Excel spreadsheet. I think I might have gotten some out of QuickBooks before, but probably more often like an Excel spreadsheet of sorts. So I was just going to run through different options for accounting for estates and trusts. And I mean, it's very similar to businesses, so it's not any new news. But just in general, there are multiple. Now there are some really good like cloud-based, no-cost options that we've started to utilize through the pandemic. As everyone knows, all the cloud-based programs became much more robust, much more user-friendly, and very top of mind. So just like I was just telling April, we actually switched all of our phones over to Zoom. So like if somebody calls my office, they're actually calling in through Zoom. And that allows me to connect like all of my people who are remote or have to work remotely really seamlessly. So I'm just mentioning this because these programs where they maybe used to be more trouble than what they were worth, they actually can come in really, really handy now. If you had maybe somebody like a helper person helping out with accounting for your estates and trusts. The number one probably top free app I'll put on here is waveapps.com. It's one we utilize for super small businesses. And since I can share, I'll just kind of show you what it looks like real quick. So it's just called Wave. It's very similar to QuickBooks Online, if you've ever used QuickBooks Online, but this would be a really simple way to kind of put the Excel aside, or if you're using like a Google Doc, this is probably a little bit safer than maybe a Google spreadsheet or something. You can sign up for free. It actually is fairly robust for a free program. It links up to your bank account, just like a QuickBooks would. So rather than like manually entering all this accounting that you have to do for your clients and keeping track of all these dollars, the program kind of does it for you. So I just mention it, and that if anybody wants to take this route, like I'm happy to help anybody who has any questions. It's very similar if anyone has ever used like a QuickBooks Online. This is probably the number one program that people switch to for accounting. QuickBooks was probably the top desktop program to begin with anyways. And then it kind of flipped over to, they really started to push their QuickBooks Online. And it wasn't very robust, but now, everybody's on it. Everybody has switched to like an online version accounting type tool. I think we probably added 100 people to the online version in the last 6 months. It's just with everyone being on the go or at home and maybe not having access or wanting to pay for like a terminal server to access those Excel spreadsheets that they had, on their computer at their office. These like cloud-based accounting versions offer like a different option for accounting. So I just want to mention that. And the Sheets version is still a good Still a good option, still good Excel. But those I just mentioned, and if you're looking for something to kind of like upgrade your own accounting or your accounting for your clients that you do in-house, those are a couple of good cloud-based options for you. But that's all I had for today. Just a quick tax and accounting update. Does anybody have any questions? I tried to keep it to estate and trust related, but I'm happy to answer any random tax, accounting, valuation. There's really not anything new in the valuation world unless they start to change those limits, which has been talked about. I haven't heard anything about it lately, changing gift and estate tax limits as far as the like lifetime exclusion and things go. So we're doing way more cannabis related valuations right now than probably like more estate planning because the limit's so high. But does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, Amy, it's Sally. So that I think is probably top of mind for most of us estate planners is what is the status with the exemption for the 706, the gift taxes? Because I think everybody's kind of on pins and needles thinking to go back and,
right,
and rewrite estate plans or, how do we plan going forward? And you're right. I mean, I haven't heard much since.
Yeah, I tried to look even a little bit since I hadn't heard anything or seen anything come through. I even tried to like really dig in the like just earlier this week and even into last night, just trying to see if anything was coming up. But I think now that this latest like infrastructure Biden plan has kind of lost steam for a second, there really hasn't been any new news even in the last like 2 weeks.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like just like personally, it's kind of taking a backseat to some other things right now. But I have like no new news. So I'm just kind of waiting on, I mean, I don't think anything's going to change personally, but I could, they could pass a bill tomorrow that's totally changing everything.
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably one of the things we're all kind of waiting for.
I know I was hoping to kind of give a little bit more robust update in that realm, but there's just nothing, like as far as I know, it's going to be status quo. Yeah, it's kind of gone away. It's lost steam. It's not, I don't think those items in particular are weighing with anyone's constituency where it's like, well, we have, like, if you don't do this, it's not like something people can use to like dangle the carrot with or anything. Like nobody cares about it that much right now. Since there's so like people care, like the daycare stuff is the really hot topic right now. And people want more stimulus and like these like government programs and infrastructure, obviously. Energy is like a real dangling carrot right now. So I feel like with all those balls in the air, like the estate gift tax stuff's kind of taking a back seat.
Okay, good.
Hopefully. I mean, I would like not to see any changes. I like when it's quiet, but I also like having work to do too.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Good.
Well, I did email through the listserv. I sent Amy's business card that has her information on there. So definitely reach out. Kristen says, "Thank you, Amy. This is really great information. I appreciate you meeting with us." So yeah,
sure,
we
no
definitely
problem.
do. And like I said, we use Amy. I've used Amy. She is great. Any questions they have that are out of left field, I'll just send her an email and she'll get back to me and completely answer.
I don't know who Ann is, but she called the payment line and got a transcript. That's awesome.
Awesome. Yes. Perfect. So yes, Ann Hall says,
yeah, call a totally random line to get what you want. I love it.
Perfect. And then just in ICBA news, so and Dennis wants to say anything too. So November meeting, the ICBA will not be holding a Zoom meeting. So we are foregoing that so that the Community Foundation and GLEPIC are putting on this great event on November 10th, right? I should have gotten that out. Dennis, I'll let Dennis give a brief little spotlight for it. But it's a luncheon, and definitely go. Dennis, are you on?
I'm here. Yes, Brian Klontz, he's a nationally sought after speaker on planned giving, and he's going to be speaking. And the topic is top 10 charitable trends every advisor should know in 2021. He's a very engaging speaker. The West Michigan Planned Giving Council is going to be hearing him the day before, and we're the Community Foundation is paying for his expenses to come over here so we can hear him as well. It's a free lunch over at the University Club, and I think you'll find it engaging and interesting. So hopefully you can make it, and there'll be a reminder. Hopefully you've got an invitation already, but we'll be sending out a reminder email probably next week. And please RSVP so that we can count you and have your lunch ready for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dennis. And we'll send that invite to you through the listserv for anyone, so that definitely RSVP, because that's going to be a really great event there. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you can get in touch with me, Sally, Dennis, either one. Other than that, does anyone have anything else for Amy before we sign off here?
Thanks so much, Amy. That was really helpful.
No
Yeah.
problem. I'm going to pop off, you guys. You'll have my email. Feel free to reach out anytime via email. I'm happy to like shoot answers back if you got weird random questions or something.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. You guys take care, and we will see you all hopefully in November.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.